Okay. I keep hearing the youngsters throwing around these catchphrases, and it's driving me nuts. All right. Capitalism. They blame everything on the patriarchy and capitalism, and I feel like they don't really understand either one. Okay. So here's Wikipedia. Okay. Capitalism is an economy system based on private ownership of means of production, operation. It's private property, capital accumulation, competitive markets, price systems, property rights, selfish interest, economic freedom, work ethic, consumer sovereignty, economic efficiency. Okay, you're confusing capitalism with monopolies. Okay, what we have is a lot of monopolization going on. My hat's being noisy. We have big public corporations, publicly owned corporations and entities, organizations and stuff that are interchangeably owned by basically the same people. Okay? If you look at these big box companies, these big market companies, these big public owned, they've got people who've got stocks in them, right? The people on the board of directors, the CEOs and all of that, they're all the same people on these different boards, or they're related, or they're interconnected and whatnot. Those are basically monopolies. They're not like completely monopolizing because there's several different companies, but it basically is a monopoly because it's the same people that are doing it.
BlackRock.
Hopefully this video doesn't get taken down because he said that. But anyway, this is for entertainment and educational purposes only. We're just making fun with my tin hat here, okay? So I feel like the young people need to be re-educated, and we all need to stop using catchphrases. The capitalism and patriarchy have both become catchphrases that young people want to blame everything they don't like on. But whenever it comes down to it, they don't like the big box stuff. I mean, if you want to use the big box stuff, but you want to turn around and you want to complain about how the workers in other countries are being treated and the ingredients that are in, like, what's being used for clothing, you know, the unsustainable clothing and the toxic food ingredients and these kinds of things, those are not from capitalist companies. That is not capitalist companies that are doing that. That is a monopoly type organizations that are connected to government organizations that are doing that. The idea of capitalism, and maybe that's not a good word, so I pulled it up into ChatGPT, and I'm like, what would you call a system that encourages small family-owned businesses and individual bartering? Because that is much more sustainable, right? I think we can all agree on that. That is much more sustainable. And it comes up with cottage commerce, hearth economy, heritage market systems, sustainable trade economy. It comes up with all this stuff. And so I'm like, I'd like to know what it was considered historically, okay? And in a historical context, it says before the Industrial Revolution, small family-run businesses often worked out of homes, producing textiles, crafts, or goods for local consumption. It was known as a cottage industry or putting out system in Europe. Families worked on contracts for merchants but retained a degree of independence. So you're talking about contractors, and my husband's a contractor. I've contracted, working as virtual assistant and different things. So, you want to be able to buy homemade goods and sustainable goods, but you're putting capitalism down and blaming capitalism for all of your problems. And you want the freedom to do everything that you want to do, but you want to blame all your problems on the freedom to do what you want to do. So stop. Let's call and stop focusing on the bad. Okay, there's a lot of bad in the world. Okay, there's a lot of people that do a lot of bad things in the name of capitalism, but they're not capitalists. Okay, and there's a lot of people that do a lot of bad things in the name of the patriarchy, but they're not patriarchal. Okay, not truly. A patriarchy is a partnership. Yeah, it's a very special partnership that works really, really well when it's done right. Okay, and none of you have lived in a patriarchy, and unless you were living in a cult that called itself a patriarchy, and then that was a cult. It wasn't a patriarchy, okay? Let's just get it straight. America, Mexico, I know so many countries are matriarchal. There may be men at the top of businesses and governments and stuff, but they're not the ones running the show. I'm sorry, they're not. The last several years should have shown you that. It should have. But look at your grandparents and who actually ran things. Usually it was grandma. Okay? Grandma usually had the last say on what was going on and let everybody know what should think. Okay? And the men have been cowed and pushed down and shoved away for a very long time. There are some things wrong with our society, but throwing it into a catchphrase and say it's all the patriarchy, it's all white supremacy, call white supremacy what it is too. It's NAZI. That's what it is. That's what that is. It's not white supremacy. You're trying to lump a whole bunch of people into one category, and that's not fair. That's just not fair to everybody. And if you've been living under something like that, stop, get out of it and heal. But, call it what it is, because, it's just wrong. And then you turn around and you blame the Bible for things that people did in the name of the Bible or God. But it had nothing to do with the Bible, because the Bible says love your neighbor as yourself. Especially the Old Testament. All of the laws of the Old Testament were based around self-care and loving your neighbor as yourself, being considerate and kind to one another. Yeah, there were some atrocities that happened in the Old Testament. There have been atrocities that have happened throughout history. It's not all God and Bible. Okay? It's not. And so let's stop throwing people in little boxes and lumping people together and using these catchphrases. And let's find positive things to do. Start using sustainable words, sustainable with sustainable meanings, shopping with sustainable small businesses, and stop, pull the rug out from under these monopolizing organizations. Stop using them. Instead of getting online and blah, 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 this is what's wrong with society, and it's all whoever's fault. Start fixing it.